Hi, Space 1889 fans. I'm Darrell Hayhurst, the designer on the latest edition of Space 1889. And let's talk a little bit about space, like itself, right? And early on in the design process, we had to decide whether we were going to focus on like a very specific experience on a specific planet. Like, ooh, Mars is really cool. Let's drill down and really do Mars, or pull back and do the entire inner worlds, the solar system, like the original game did. And game's called Space 1889, so it probably better have some space in it. And that was the decision that we made. And the way we leaned into that is, in vehicles, we mentioned, hey, everyone's going to start with an ether flyer. Every group, every crew has that vehicle. And then what we wanted to make sure is that there was a lot of ways to use it. And one of the ways that we do that is the orbital map. And when you travel throughout the solar system, and this is like a large fold out map, and it's a hex-based map. And hexes are fantastic because they let you do things like we can have the sun in the middle. And then, a few hexes out, you have the orbital track for Mercury. And each hex is, 11, I think it's 11 million, miles of real space. And these tracks actually match the solar system's distances. So it's actually fairly realistic. And then we've got the speeds mapped to the ether propeller speeds. So if you're a speed 1 propeller, you're moving one of these hexes each week. And that also happens to be magically the speed at which planets move around the sun. And so if it takes, 52 weeks for Earth to travel around the sun, it turns out its track along the map has 52 hexes that it travels along. And all of the planets are moving at the same speed on their own tracks. And the farther out they get, the longer it's taking them to go around. And we have the positions marked, that thanks to NASA data, where they were in the first week of that year, so that as you move the game forward week by week by week, the planets are moving and you can find these new pathways between. Or if you're not tracking time like that, you can just kind of roll randomly, like how many weeks in are we, and move the planets around to get a different configuration. So you can find your course. Like, aha, if I'm going from Earth to Mars, right now they're on opposite sides of the sun. I have to cross like 4, ether tracks, which are areas of turbulence. And it's going to take, 6 weeks, even with a speed 4 ether propeller. Whereas, if I did it at a different time of year, it takes like a week tops, and there's nothing in between us. And it adds that element that we talk about in the fiction all the time, but now it's something that you practically get to interact with. And then each week of travel, there are encounters in space, and you roll the danger die for them, because space is not empty, and there's a lot more than just, errant meteors and asteroids and things like that. We have crystallized ether, which is, or ether, I should say, sorry, which is essentially like glass that you can hit at high speed. Or if you've got a gun, like almost all ether ships have some weapon just to break through crystallized ether if they encounter it. You can have these gravity storms. You can have what's called the rip, where the energy from the sun projects out like a riptide in 2 angles. And with sails, you can ride it at pretty high speed, but it can also create these heat streams and things like that. You've got the equivalent of Sargasso seas, which is dark dust, and pirates tend to hang around that. So, and also there's treasure, because an ancient alien race, the Phaetons, were out here, and there are aspects of their technology that you can find. So it's not all bad, but it's meant to make space travel interesting and exciting, and something that you're going to want to do rather than just only hang around on planets.